Hey there, welcome back to Conquer the Day podcast, where today we are diving into something that we all struggle with from time to time, especially as the seasons change, getting sick. How do you handle it when you get sick? Do you tend to fall into a default mode where you just feel like there's nothing that can be helped and you're frustrated because you're sick and you just wish you felt better, but yet you're really not taking care of your body? All your healthy habits go out the window. Or do you tend to fall into that default mode where you say, I am not sick, you medicate, and you push through, only prolonging your sickness further? If you tend to fall into either of these patterns, this is going to be a very helpful podcast for you because we are going to give you 5 actionable tips on how to take care of your body when you are feeling sick, and maybe more importantly, the mindset that is going to best serve you when you aren't feeling well so that you have a faster recovery and you can get back to doing all of the activities and the work that you love to do at full capacity. If that sounds good, let's dig into it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know when we talk about sickness, there's the difference between feeling a cold come on, feeling some mild symptoms, and actually having a flu, pneumonia, an intense cold. So we have to be able to make a distinction between, first, what we're actually feeling and what we're thinking about what we're feeling. So, for example, if you are experiencing, we'll say, peripheral symptoms, which is a slight runny nose, stuffy nose, maybe a little congestion, sore throat, it's important to know how that's actually impacting your body. Because if it's head up, right, the rule is if it's neck up, it's okay to keep training. It's okay to keep pushing yourself to a more modest or mild extent. But if it's neck down, it's a good rule of thumb. That's when you might want to take a rest or you really want to forego some of the things you're doing for your training or exercise. But we want to make a distinction between, hey, these are some mild symptoms that are more peripheral, located like my nasal passage, my throat, or something that's more systemic, which might be a flu, I have a fever, I can feel it in my lungs, right? That's when I need to maybe be more hypervigilant of rest and recovery. But I bring that up because oftentimes we can overcomplicate how we're feeling or overcomplicate our sickness. And I see a lot of people use it as a scapegoat to not do healthy things. So we just want to be mindful of really paying attention, like, how am I actually feeling? Am I really sick or am I just starting to catch a cold? And if we're in that starting phase, we still want to maintain some healthy habits to keep our body engaged, right? We can cut back on how much we're training. We might want to forego a run, right? We might not want to push as hard, but it's still valuable to keep our body in motion. It's still valuable to keep that habit. But I just think it's important for people to just see the difference between, okay, yeah, a fever, a temperature is one category where my body's actually trying to fight something, and one is maybe my body's just having some small symptoms of congestion.
Your body's irritated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're in irritated mode, that's when it's like, hey, I still want to go to the gym. I still want to exercise. I still want to put my body under some workout, but I can half the workout. I can cut down the intensity. I'm not going to go do HIIT personally. I'm not going to get a big sweat on. I'm going to keep my body actively engaged so it can help my body recover, but I'm not going to push it to its capacity. I think that's when you want to go into a recovery workout or half the workout, meaning like cut it in half and then push from there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's going to be something that we can pull apart a little bit further because I think a lot of people are nervous about working out when they aren't feeling at 100%. And you don't have to be. There's a very clear, we'll say clear guardrails or boundaries that you can kind of lean into when you're not feeling well as to how you train. But the first and most important action item when you aren't feeling well is to prioritize your sleep. Because your immune system is working really hard if you are not feeling well it's not that your immune system is failing you. It's that it's actually working really hard to get rid of whatever sickness is coming on or currently within your body. So what you can do to really set your body up for success and a proper recovery is really prioritize your sleep. I know it can be hard to sleep when you aren't feeling well, especially if you're stuffy or you can't breathe, but really, truly do whatever you can to optimize your sleep in these periods. And it's not just a certain amount of time, but that's a good starting point. Aim for 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep. Do this intentionally, and your body's going to recover a lot faster than if you're continuing maybe those sleep patterns of somebody who is chasing goals and ambitious and working into the late hours of the night, who maybe doesn't prioritize their sleep quite so much. Really make that a focus, and you will recover much faster. All the other tips will follow that one.
Mm-hmm. And the second part is continuing to move your body. Now, it doesn't mean, again, we have to go push our body, but especially if we're in that first phase, the peripheral symptoms are there, that's when we want to get up and go for a walk, or we want to stretch, or we want to do a moderate strength training workout. I don't want to go do HIIT. I don't want to push my body in that capacity. I don't want to go and do an intense run, but I want to go get some movement in. That's going to help with circulation. That's going to help my body start to move and lubricate the joints. If I'm feeling really stiff, that can be very helpful because we get a lot of that pain and stiffness, which makes the feelings even worse. So getting that movement in can help, right? And then you can even think about getting out in the sun. If you go for a walk after laying in bed all day, that can really help us feel better. But the piece that I think is important to know is that's different than maybe even like the systemic symptoms of when we're really feeling sick, right? You don't have to commit to an intense workout if you have a fever.
You shouldn't work out if you have a fever.
Yes. So it's being able to make the distinction between how you're feeling. I think that sometimes we think, oh, well, like how hard should I push? It's like if you can just get out of bed for a little bit, that might be the best thing for you. If you can go and stretch, that might make your body feel better, right? That tension that you're feeling in your neck might be eased by some stretches, and that might help you also feel better, which will help you recover.
Yeah, I hear this described in a couple different stages that I think is really helpful. If you are feeling like a little bit of a stuffy nose and a little bit of a scratchy throat, you're probably fine to train pretty much at full capacity. The only thing that would change with your exercise or your workout program is, maybe you do a little bit less volume, a little bit less intensity. So if you're planning to do 4 sets of squats at however much weight you would normally do, maybe you only do 3 sets of squats that day, right? Or if you're planning to do a 20 minutes of cardio that typically gets your heart rate up high, well, then maybe you do 5 to 10 minutes. Maybe you cut that down, or you just do really low steady state cardio where you're just going for a walk instead of a run. So lower the intensity a little bit, but you can still train. If you are experiencing more peripheral symptoms, like you really do have not just a runny nose, but a stuffy nose, you're congested, you aren't feeling good, you have sinus pressure, your throat hurts, but that's really the only part of you that hurts. Like your body is feeling fine. You don't have a fever. You don't feel strong, but you also don't feel like exhausted. Well, then that's usually the part where people don't know what to do. In that particular situation, maybe we'll call that stage 2 of intensity of sickness. Then you would want to maybe still do your training. You have full choice. If you want to rest for 3 days, that's fine, but make a choice that I'm going to rest and still move, like go for walks, but I'm not going to train. That's fine too. You'll be okay for 3 days off. But if you feel up for it and you want to get some circulation, think about cutting down the intensity and the volume of your workouts almost in half. So I did this today personally. If you can't hear it in my voice, I was feeling a little bit under the weather earlier this week, but this week I still exercised. I still weight trained. I didn't do any cardio, but I did my weight training. And every time that I did a workout, it was typically about 20 to 30 minutes, but the weights I was using were at least half of what I would normally do. At best, 2/3 of what I would normally do. So today I did 3 sets of deadlifts at about 155 pounds, where normally I might do 4 or 5 sets at 185 to 225 pounds. So I just cut down the weight, cut down the sets, made it much easier. So don't overcomplicate it, but think, hey, I can still move. That will only help me recover. as long as I cut it in half and I really listen to my body. Stage 3 is those systemic symptoms where you have flu-like symptoms. Your body aches, you have a fever. Here, if you go work out and tax your body on top of the taxation that it already feels, it is going to put your body under so much stress and your immune system under so much stress that it is going to take you far longer to recover. And what might be maybe a 4 or 5 day flu experience will be weeks. So if you really aren't feeling good, do not go push yourself, but really consider stretching or a very light 5 to 10 minute walk strictly for circulation. Circulation is healing. So even if you can go for a 5 to 10 minute walk and stretch, that's going to put you in a better mindset and it's going to help your body recover. But don't do more than that if you're feeling like the flu or flu-like symptoms.
So again, movement is so essential. We want to make sure that we're moving. I thought, Lindsey, you put that really well there. How to distinguish between the points. Number 3 is continue to focus on hydration and electrolytes balance. So one of the things that I like to do is we have Propel packets. I add to my water every day. It's a really simple way to increase electrolyte balance. You could also use some Himalayan sea salt in your water with, let's say, lemon, or if you want lime, that's okay too. But making sure that you're adding not only water, hydration, but electrolytes. And you can also think of eating more water-based foods. So this would be kind of similar to when we talk about nutrient-dense foods. I remember when we had Sarah Ahmad on the podcast, she gave a great example about the value of eating fruits and vegetables because of the micronutrients they deliver to our bodies. And you can start to think, hey, well, these foods also carry with them all the water-soluble vitamins that our body needs. And that's how you can start to associate, hey, when I eat an apple, I'm not just eating an apple, I'm also eating something that's loaded with vitamin C. It has B vitamins with it. So you can start to think, too, that the foods that you eat are not only going to be healthier foods, but they're going to be giving your body the micronutrients that they need in order for you to restore your immune system, support your immune system, and recover. So when we think about hydration, foods that have water in them, vegetables, fruits, soups, these are great ways to be lighter on what your body is going to have to digest, right? It's a little bit easier for your body to digest something that's mostly water than something that's processed that doesn't have any water in it. And that will also allow you to think, hey, I'm hydrating my body, I'm getting the electrolytes it needs, and that's a really advantageous way to recover when you're sick.
Yeah, and think about having at least 100 ounces of water, if not 128. You'll notice as you start drinking more water, you actually will become more thirsty because your body is getting what it needs. So if that sounds like a big stretch for you, if you're sick, that is a priority. Really try to get water. Try to get, again, it's just going to help with your circulation, which will help you recover faster. Since Brian already touched on it, I'll pivot right over into tip number 4, which is to focus on nutrient-dense foods. This is really simple and probably sounds obvious. Like, yes, you should get healthy foods while you're sick because your body needs the micronutrients. Your body needs that nutrition. But when we're sick, we tend to forget about any goals we might have had to eat well. We think, well, I'm not hungry. I don't have an appetite. I don't want to eat anything. I only want soup, or I only want ice cream, or I only want this, or I only want that. If you can direct your attention and your focus to the question, how can I give my body what it actually needs right now? Things will become much clearer and decisions will become much clearer. Pay attention the next time you're not feeling well. It's most likely that your body is craving salt, it's craving vitamin C, and it's craving other micronutrient-dense foods. It is not craving dairy. It is probably not craving sugar. It is probably actually craving the hydration and the vitamins that it needs. So try to give yourself healthy, whole foods that meet those needs. I know for me, I've had like 2 oranges a day and lots of crackers, or put Himalayan salt on my food, or had hydration or electrolytes in my water. And that's made a huge difference this week. My body feels so much better. It's like it thanks me every time that I eat something micronutrient dense. And now the key here is understand that you probably will have a lower appetite. That's okay. But every time you do get a little hungry or you do have the appetite, don't turn to those convenience hyper-processed foods. Turn to foods that are dense in micronutrients, that are rich in vitamins and minerals is really what we're saying. Try to nourish your body. and remind yourself, I'm taking care of my body. I'm nourishing my body. It's getting what it needs. And that's going to make your recovery much better as well.
And the last tip when we talk about how to recover when we're sick is making sure that we're managing stress well, making sure that we're mentally recovering from whatever's happening in our environment or in our life. When we are in our fight or flight response, when we're stressed, our immune system is suppressed. And we need our immune system in order for us to recover. Mm-hmm. So in this season, when you're not feeling well, it might be time for you to delegate some more tasks. It might be time for you to manage the essentials and know that, hey, certain projects might get put on the back burner. It might be time for you to ask for more help, or time to rest mentally through meditation, through breath work, through prayer, whatever you do to bring yourself down.
Yep.
It's bringing yourself down to that modest level. And what I find to be really helpful is managing the essentials.
Manage the essentials and manage the expectations.
Yes. It's like, what are the projects that I have to push forward that need me, that I do need to accomplish today? What are the big tasks and how can I prioritize them the right way? I think that's important. You don't have to get rid of work, but it also requires you to have the self-awareness of how sick you are.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
If you're really down for the count, hey, I need to delegate this. I need to make sure that the right people are responsible for this, asking for help, putting the right people in charge of the project. If I'm not feeling well, but I know I can push through, it's setting the expectation for what does success look like for today.
Yep.
And then if I find myself heightened and stressed, I need to come down. I need to make sure that I'm recovering so I can actually get sleep. That's a really important point. Having some downtime before you actually fall asleep and not engaging in work longer than you know you need to. These are all essentials to make sure that you can get the recovery you need to support your immune system and then recover well.
What I hope you are taking away from this is that recovery is not passive. It's actually active. If you're just waiting to feel better, mentally, you're going to be miserable. And physically, your illness is probably going to be prolonged. At least it'll take place longer than it needs to. Because a lot of these tips that we just gave you, all of these tips we just gave you, if you implement all of them, you could take a 2 to 3 week recovery period and bring it down to 3 to 5 days. Especially if you are mindful and self-aware enough to catch it right at the beginning and say, hey, number one priority, take care of my body. Everything else can be adjusted. Take care of my body. You are no good to anyone else if you are feeling terrible. So take care of yourself. That is our last reminder for you. And as we leave here, biggest things. Remember, sleep is number one. Move your body so you get circulation. Don't feel like you have to push yourself, but be self-aware. Use some of the tips we gave you to reduce the intensity of your training. Number 3, hydrate. Make sure that you are getting water, getting electrolytes. Number 4, focus on nutrient-dense foods. When your appetite does come back, you do get a little bit hungry, pay attention. Give your body nutrient-dense foods versus those easy, we'll say comfort foods. And lastly, do what you can to reduce the psychological stress that you're under. Reduce your expectations of yourself. Delegate projects. Communicate with people that you might need a little bit of extra help this week. Let yourself do that. And again, you will recover so much faster and you will feel better soon.
Yes. And so the key here is realizing that your health should not stop just because you're not feeling well. A lot of these habits are the habits we want to build in our daily life. When we're chasing a weight loss goal or we're chasing a fitness goal, we want to eat well. We want to sleep. We want to recover. We want to manage stress. We just might need to do it in a different way when we're not feeling well. So if you found this valuable, if you found it helpful, all we ask is leave us a like here on YouTube. Comment your biggest takeaway, your biggest thoughts below, and feel free to share this with a friend. We'd love to be able to support more people in your community. But thank you so much for being here. We hope you feel well, right? We hope you're feeling better. And now go out and conquer the rest of your day.
Cheers.
Cheers.